Rev up your engines!
Tony Alyo says, Scotty, what's your opinion on a 2004 Pathfinder or QX4? Are they solid? Well, the 2000 ones were relatively solid because that was around the year that Renault and Nissan merged, around 2000. So it didn't really affect it yet. They were still Nissans and pretty solid build. I got customers with those 2000 Pathfinders that have 300,000 miles and they're still running great. But the newer ones, they fall apart when they get 8 or 10 years old. Their catalytic converters go bad. They burn oil. Their air conditioning systems are garbage. Their electronics break down. But an old 2000, if you can find one with not too many miles, it can be a pretty decent vehicle, you know? Like I said, I wouldn't buy a late model one, but those old ones were much more reliable. Marcelo, who says, Scotty, you don't recommend buying cars from auctions just because they're cheap, right? Well, now, I don't know if you mean the cars are cheap or the people are cheap. Let's say if you mean the people are cheap, okay? If you're cheap, I still say don't buy an auction car because they can have problems. But if you mean buying a cheap auction car, you definitely own because there's problems with it. All auction cars, why are they sold at an auction? Because they have problems. And so somebody decides I'm going to sell it at an auction. Any good car will sell on the street these days. You get a good Toyota, Honda, Ford, whatever. If it's in good shape and has reasonably low mileage on it, people are going to fight hand over fist to buy the thing. But if it's a crappy car or it has a stolen title or has been in a wreck or a flood, then they sell them in auctions. And you can't drive them. You can't have a mechanic check them out. Only a pro should buy a car at an auction. I know guys that do it for a living, but they go to an auction and then they come with 10 grand and they might buy 5 or 6 cars. They're going to sell each one for $4,000 to $6,000. So they're going to make money. Even if they get 2 lemons, they're still going to make money. But don't buy it as an individual. It's a mistake. Generally, you're going to get burned. GO5252. Scotty, what scan tool would you recommend for a non-mechanic? How much should I pay? Thank you. Good question. It depends how far you want to go in analysis. Now, if you want to spend $100-something, go to Amazon. Buy any of those Actron, A-C-T-R-O-N. They make some great scan tools. If you want a good scan tool for $99 that goes on your phone, if you have a good phone, get the Blue Driver. It's $99 and it does an awful lot of information. Now, if you just want a basic scan tool for trouble codes and stuff like that, heck, go to Amazon. You can get $20 or $29 ones that work perfectly fine for just that basic stuff. They're made in China. They have all reverse engineered software and they work good enough for something like that. It just depends on how far you want to go. Joseph Sucha, for a second car, what car should I get? 06 Volvo S60R or Ford Focus ST 2015. I have a 1977 Porsche 924 now as my current car. Okay, on that, I am not a Volvo fan by any stretch of the imagination. But I'd go Volvo over the Focus. Now, if it was a Ford Fusion, I'd say get the Fusion because they're pretty well made. But the Focus is meh. I would probably go the Volvo if it was low enough mileage and it is a second car and you're not putting much mileage on it. Because I've had customers buy those Volvos. I've had them buy those S's. They get them with 70, 80,000 and they drive them for 4 or 5 years and they put 20, 30,000 miles. They don't have that many problems with them. But once they're over 120, 30,000 miles, they generally start to fall apart. You don't want to be stuck with it. Sit in the case of Scotty. I have a 93 Lexus LS400. I find mechanics charge me more because it's a Lexus, but not really different than a Toyota. What can I do? Well, here's the problem. You bought the wrong Lexus. That's the V8 engine. And the V8 engines are much more complex. They're much more expensive to repair, and they break more often than the V6s. The V6s, they can be trouble-free for 300,000-400,000 miles. But the V8s aren't. When they get older, they generally have a lot of problems, and they are a lot harder to work on. So try to find a guy like me that knows how to work on them. And if you can't, I'd say just give up the ghost and get a 300 Lexus used. And they don't have the problems, and they are basically a Toyota Camry with a V6, and they're much easier to fix, and they cost a lot less for parts. Dylan Larry says, I got an '07 Pontiac that has a blinking check engine light when I accelerate at 60 miles an hour. When your check engine light blinks, it means that you got a serious problem. It's going to ruin the catalytic converter. So there is some serious problem. You want to get it scanned. Now, it's a modern car, so it's not like the old cars. The old cars, you had to scan them when the light was on, but the new ones aren't that way. If it only flashes when you're going 60 and accelerating, and later you come back and the light goes off, the code is still stored historically in the computer. So anybody with even a cheap scan tool can plug it in and say, okay, here's a trouble code, and it'll show you what the code is. It could be any of 2,000 different things, but the code will still be there on any modern car. Vinny's Custom says, what's your opinion on E85? It's 85% ethanol, 15% gasoline. The farmers love it. They like it in Brazil because they make it from the sugarcane there and they keep it all in-house. It actually burns cleaner and has more power, higher octane. But it gets almost 20% worse gas mileage than gasoline because ethanol has like 20% less energy than gasoline. So you get worse gas mileage. Now, generally, when I've done the figuring, it's cheaper than gasoline to some extent, but usually it's not 20% cheaper, so you're not making out anymore. But for those of you that have an E85 vehicle that says flex fuel, it will run better, it will actually have more horsepower, and it burns cleaner. If they are always run on E85, the engine actually can last longer because they burn cleaner, they don't carbon up. So it's all a choice of what you want to buy and what you want to run on it. But it's not a good idea to keep switching back and forth if you have a flex one and run on E85 and then later run on regular gasoline because, they seem to crap up when you do that. Decide if you're going to stick with E85, stick with the E85. And of course, the thing is, it's hard to find. If you live in the Midwest, no, because the farmers love it. But here in Texas, there's no stations near my house. I'd have to drive half an hour to fill it up with the stuff.
So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.